Maybe we can see some examples here.
We'll go into this topic very explicitly. So
Okay.
hopefully you can help me here in phrasing the conclusions of this matter. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Neef, and I've conducted research on living labs together with Gugerell, Verweij, and Zuidema. And on behalf of them, I'm allowed to present to you here. So thank you very much for having us. This was an explorative case study, so we were really exploring what are living labs, what different types are out there, and how can we use them in planning. So we tried to find a way that Rijkswaterstaat, the Executive Office of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Environment in the Netherlands, could use them, but also in the perspective of the project of Self-City, which is non-collective governance in climate change issues. So that's on the framing here. Regarding the complexity aspect, I think there are two levels concerning complexity in my research. I'm hoping that you can help me today in connecting the more meta-complexity level, and I have some discussion questions prepared for you if you want to help me in here. But also I will present to you two different types of living labs, and one really strongly builds on the transition management tool. So I think it's in there also on a more concrete strategic niche management level. So let's go. Introduction, where do the living labs come from? Well, it started with an innovation scientist, Professor Mitchell at MIT, and he noticed that with new technologies we were able to monitor what users are actually doing with our innovations. So, and this is crucial. Why would we want to involve the user in our innovations? We're experts, right? We can design things for our users, and we know how they work, we know what they want, and then all of a sudden we realize, hey, we can use the information of the user to make these products better. So this mindset change is very crucial, because we went from in-house solutions that experts make to in-house solutions which are co-created with users and experts. And then we thought, hey, there's a smart city paradigm. We're taking all sorts of data on the topic of creating data, collecting data, managing data, as well as using it in our city. So we're talking about renewable energy, we're talking about building isolation, we're talking about smart mobility, sustainable mobility. So we scaled it up, and that's a big change, the translation to the spatial domain. Why? Because on the small scale of innovation in-house, problems might not be as wicked as on the more macro scope that cities comprise. So this change is very crucial, and we'll see that some difficulties will arise in translating this open innovation paradigm to the city level. And it's been done a lot. Living labs are hot, so to say, and they are named in all different ways. Field labs, experimentation places, city labs, experimental gardens, incubators, and many more. So what we try to do was stay very pure here. We wanted to learn stuff about living labs. Is it called a living lab? Then we study it. Do you call it something differently? We don't study it. Okay, so this is the methodology. But what are living labs actually supposed to do? They are supposed to foster experimentation, pioneering, and learning through co-creation. It's doing things together. But there are a plurality of meanings assigned to living labs, and this makes it hard to work with living labs, because we all use them the same words, but we still mean different things. And another troubling issue is that it's sometimes construed as an everything goes concept. So we call it living lab, and then we can do whatever we want. So this is troubling in analyzing what living labs really do. So our main research question here is, how can differences in types of living labs help to inform choices living labs face? And we started with an elaborate literature review, many papers and PhD theses on the matter. Yes, many people have gotten their PhD in living labs. And we did an explorative case study. We explored multiple cases just by reading them, but we also contacted the process managers of multiple living labs. I've numbered them there, and I will tell briefly about these cases, what they are. So the first one, ruimtelijke adaptatie, spatial adaptation. Spatial adaptation concerns making the province of Zwolle more resilient to water. And we'll see that this living lab is very multi-layered, and that it's also top-down oriented, because it was a desire from Rijkswaterstaat to create this living lab. It's very different from de coalitie stevige stad op slappe bodem. In Dutch, because of course nobody can understand this. Strong city on weak soil is a living lab that was initiated by someone who just started to work at the municipality and noticed that the soil subsidence in the city of Gouda, in the southern part of the Netherlands, was quite strong. And soil subsidence is also a wicked problem. Why? Because there's the technical issue, soil subsidence, but handling soil subsidence is very much a social issue. Because if one person thinks, well, I just high up the grounds and then I'm good, then it can succeed again. And if the other person thinks, no, I just want to go to the lowest level as possible and then the soil is strong again, you actually make the problem worse. So we consider this as something that has both a social and a technical component. And then there's the living lab Innova 58. Innova 58 concerns the A58 highway of the Netherlands. It's a very, very busy highway with over 1 million users every day. And in the province of Brabant, there's a program to make sure that traffic regulation, flow, safety is bettered over the years. But also they want to do it in an innovative way here. And that is the crucial point for all these living labs. They all want to be innovative. They've recognized, hey, we're stuck somehow, sometimes at our regime level, sometimes at the innovative way, the solutions we take. And they want to do both these things. So help the physical problem and do it in an innovative way. And the final case is Zuidhoorn. Zuidhoorn is a tiny municipality next to the city of Groningen. About 10,000 people live there. And they noticed, hey, living labs are hot. And we want to use this momentum for our municipality to get something going here. And there were a few interested people in what the municipality does. And so they said, well, let's see if we can collaborate together and make sure that our city becomes bigger, stronger, more powerful. Okay, so these are the cases. They are crucial to keep in mind because they translate this in-house topic to the spatial domain. But like I said, there are multiple understandings of living labs. And this alignment of these understandings creates tensions. So I'll show you how we arrive at the tensions, but first I'll tell you a little bit about the 3 types of understanding of living labs. You can view living labs as a concept, as a means to achieve something, as a fundamental reason of why you want to use a living lab. And I think a nice example of this is the living lab of the city of Nijmegen, also in the Netherlands. Oh, yeah, what I forgot to tell you. We only study Dutch living labs. Why? We wanted to make sure that the institutional context is largely comparable. The cultural context is largely comparable. So excuse me for the international bias here. It could be nice follow-up discussion. So the city of Nijmegen. Why? In the city of Nijmegen there was a lot of distrust between the inhabitants and the municipality. Why? There was going to be a new big bridge in the city. And the municipality said, well, it's not going to be much of an issue environmental-wise. And they produced all sorts of measurements and data, and the municipality said it's okay. And the inhabitants thought, no, not okay. I think not only are you lying about the data, I also think that the problem will be worse. Big distrust. So what did the inhabitants do? They wanted to do their own measurements. And they just didn't have the means. The measurements were very expensive, very technological, heavy. So they wanted to do it themselves, and the municipality thought, well, this is nice, because if we can empower them, then we can help them to get on our agenda as well. So this is what happened. They started involving the people. They started involving private companies to make this software and hardware more cheap. And they managed to start to work together. So they have a living lab as a method to working together. So this is the concept of a living lab. Living labs can also be a method. Like I told you about the city of strong city on weak soil. They wanted to work together as well, but they didn't really know how. So they said, okay, we need to have workplaces, places where we can work with the inhabitants on stating, okay, so this is the issue and this is what we want to do. And it was really mad. It was gearing towards working with this problem. Workplaces, but in an overall context of a living lab. This really stresses the method issue here. So these things all exist together. And then finally the context. And the context concerns both the organizational and physical environment of a living lab. So a living lab takes place somewhere, that's its context. A living lab takes place with actors, that's its context. So there are two ideal types we identified in the literature. And again, there can be more identified, but we identified these two main streams. The first stream concerns the product-oriented living lab, POL. And in the POL they are still really close to this first mindset, to this expert mindset. We're making a product for this in-house development. And now we're already translating it a little bit. We're taking users into account. We're still making a product. So this mindset change is very new within these poles. And as you can see, the goal of a pole, therefore, is also innovation. The urban transition labs follow the transition management school approach. So they're really dealing with inducing a transition, a fundamental process of societal change, as I think we probably all know. And crucial is that both are public-private people partnerships. However, they differ in their goals, in their context, in their methods, and in their phasing. So this anything goes concept that is very explicit in the polls. They do whatever they please without thinking ex ante about the phasing in which they want to do it in. Whereas in the UTLs, this is very fixed. Also important is to focus on the users. So the polls, they come from this in-house innovation paradigm. And they want these users to be very involved. Whereas in the UTL, the focus is on making a transition team and really using that network later on in the fusing and the innovation, employing the innovation. So this is important. Finally, in the methods, there's a little bit about learning frame. And what we encountered earlier on was issues of accountability in complex networks. But this is tough, right? If everything is complex and we have all network governance and working together, who is really to be held accountable for issues? And if everything is complex and can lead to many things, what in the end is a satisfactory result? And there are two types of viewing this. I'll stick to one regarding the time schedule. And I'll stick to the one of Klein and Coquillon. They wrote about network governance last year. They produced a very, very nice book. And they say basically there are three types of learning. There's cognitive learning, strategic learning, and institutional learning. And the cognitive learning is very much about the topic. What is the problem? What is the solution? The institutional learning really concerns who are we dealing with this topic. And it's about, okay, let's try to get to consensus, let's work together. And the strategic learning is, okay, I still don't really agree with you, but at least we know each other now and have a basis to work together on. So this is important because the UTLs are focused towards sustainability. That's their prime goal. And since they are focused on sustainability, it's okay to make steps, right? It's a strategic niche. Whereas in the polls, they are more focused on cognitive learning. They need a flexible learning frame to get there, but they are more focused on this cognitive learning. So this is for how we did the analysis. We tried to position the labs as either being having a poll characteristic or a UTL characteristic, and where these characteristics either differ too much inside one characteristic or between characteristics, that's where we saw tensions arise. So this is the way we analyzed it. The sheet itself is in Dutch because I just wanted to show you our method. Discrepancies lead to tensions. Alright, so the first tension we arrived at really stresses, I think, also this accountability issue, the conformance-performance tension. It's a tension between the degree to which activities of the lab must perform innovatively or must conform to final demands of the contractor, financier, or internal process manager. And in two of the cases we studied, this conformance-performance tension was really present, and they really said they can feel the hot breath. So this was in the spatial adaptation lab, and they said, well, we're controlling whoever joins. So if they don't adhere to our demands, they can join. And everybody wants to join because there's a lot of budget involved. It makes your city or your municipality better. And this kind of stresses the innovative capacity of living labs, which is curious, because the origin of living labs was about innovation. Curious. Also, regarding accountability and the learning frame, the Innova Verweij case said we focus on how to get a 6. So there was a tight learning frame. They said, the instructor, they said, What we want in the end is that you tackle the infrastructural problem. We want the roads to have a better flow, that there are less accidents. So that's your prime goal. If you're doing it innovatively, that's nice. They said if we do it innovatively but we don't address this issue, we get a 5. But if we don't do it innovatively but we address the issue, we get a 6. So we focus on how to get a 6. So it's really important to think about, do we want to conform or do we want to perform to goals, because it can reduce the innovative capacity. Second tension, it concerns the inclusion bias. It's the tension between determining and finding the relevant users for the lab and the resources available for the relevant lab. So what we often see in participatory processes is that there is a bias towards the people we involve, right? And regarding the resources, we usually stick to what is available for us. But if we really want co-creative processes, and also if we want to address complexity, I think, and we really want to take into account all the possible bifurcations, then it's useful to think a little bit more broadly about involving certain types of users. Because if you look at the phasing of the diffusion, it might reduce innovation diffusion. Why? The urban transition lab approach really focuses on this transition team, whereas the POL approach really focuses on the users that are involved. So if we think too easily about the users we involve, this might negatively influence the innovation diffusion of the lab. Yes, so what I forgot here, I'm thinking about how to connect it to complexity. So here I'm thinking, how should we address accountability in complexity? And here I'm thinking, how does this relate to co-evolution and path dependency? Because something with the inclusion bias and complexity is going on. Finally, the third tension, the actor space bias. It's the tension between the actors restricting the spatial demarcation of the lab, or the other way around, or the spatial demarcation restricting the actors of the lab. So what does this mean? If you start a lab, do you start with a group of actors and you say, okay, this group of actors is going to address an issue, and then you fix the area? Or do you do the other way around? This is the area in which we want to address a specific issue, and then we gather the actors that can handle this. So it's based on the tension between different labs contexts. Why is this important? Well, in the transition management school, we're really focusing on building a team, right? Getting momentum going, getting trust to arise, which is also one of the success factors I found in both the literature as in practice, that building trust is really important. And if you can switch actors all the time, it might be more tough to build sufficient level of trust. But that could also be power blind, right? To say, okay, then we just restrict the actors. Do you really have the right people involved? And what if you get passive actors? It can be tough. So this potentially indicates that UTLs could be power blind, but it also could mean that POLs could underestimate the contribution of group processes, because they say, well, we switch actors all the time. And the illustration I have here is from the Spatial Adaptation Lab again. We involve citizens so they grow aware of climate change. So there's this multi-level approach to the lab. They have the provincial level, above regional level, a regional level, a local level, and a project level. So, and all the time, this actor space bias is redetermining how this lab functions. So this can be tough. My conclusions. And luckily well within time. The research question was, how can differences in types of living labs help to inform choices they face? Well, besides key principles that we can find in literature, we've identified, based on these ideal types of living labs, these three tensions. The conformance-performance tension, it can help to indicate the degree to which innovation or known solutions are pursued, and help to indicate the necessity of an external process manager. And I like that we just talked about this external process manager. Because this is the person that can guard the degree to which we should instruct this, how can you say, actor space bias, for example. But also to check whether the learning frame is okay for what we really want to achieve. Why do we want innovation? External process manager can help to keep track of this. The inclusion bias helps to indicate whether user involvement is sufficient for innovation, development and diffusion. Do we have to stick to the path-dependent users, or do we have to change? And the actor space bias, in concordance with the UTL or POL approach, this helps to indicate whether spatial demarcation should be leading or actor involvement should be leading in defining the lab's context. Wow. and these, of course, are the people with whom we did this research. Okay. And if you want to, this is the input for discussion, but I don't want to be arrogant and give you the questions.
Okay. I think your discussant is Luc, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I thought I'll start, but isn't it so that the method you choose, we look at living labs because they are also has evolved to a situation where you buy your own pill. Let's try to explain it. Actually, if I look at living labs, they are only the poles. So that's where they started. You have a tool. You like to test it in real life settings, and then come back to us, and then you improve the tool.
Yeah.
That's something complete, and I think that's something to do with complexity. The other thing is UTLs. Since I was founding my consultancy in 2000, in fact, I have done UTLs, but I saw that in 2012, 2013, the idea of living labs became hot. So I called my UTLs living labs. Because this way I could get money from the European Union. And that's completely different. And UTLs has something to do with complexity. So aren't you comparing apples and pears?
Yeah. Thank you very much for your question. Actually, the last one I can illustrate with practice. The strong city on weak soil. I was interviewing them and they said, yeah, but we've been working for 2 years and I had done my research, I had done my homework, and I was reading all the documents and I thought 2 years. Documentation goes back to 6 months, maybe 9 months, so that's a lot of prep work probably. And the living lab manager said to me, yeah, but living labs are hot now. If I call it a living lab, then I get a lot of money. If next year it's a different phrase, then I call it differently. Yeah.
Because the pragmatic thing of complexity.
Yeah, exactly. But we have to go back to the start of this research, because the initiation was about, hey, there's a thing going on that's called living labs, and what are they? How can they help us? And we try to discern different ways that these labs can help us. So if we start off with this even larger new reality, then it would be even more difficult and also too timely for us to really assess it. I would love to do this in even further research, because I showed you, I think, at the beginning, all the different phrases we found. I think there will be comparable results, but only comparable. There will be differences, and this is also this issue of the everything goes concept, and which is really different as opposed to the urban transition labs, because they very strongly follow the transition management approach. And also, if you look through all the literature, the more whole-oriented living labs, they don't do this. They just want to focus on innovation and translating this to the wicked problems, to the more societal problems, person tensions.
Okay. Up to next hour.
Yeah, I hope so.
Then Jerusalem is also a living lab. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is also why I was hoping that you could help me with. I'm doing the headache stuff. Sorry, with these questions, because we can always phrase things as being something, even if they're not. This, I think, comes closely to what Fred is calling also is agreed reality in consensus planning and community rationale. And as long as we collectively understand what we're trying to achieve, then I think we're making progress in planning.
Any further questions on this? Yeah, Paula?
I was wondering the distinction you made between product-oriented and transition-oriented. I think it's people that work with living labs really connected this. You can see how it has changed from product to more transition, but I'm not sure if they are not in a way related. It's just a different focus, I think, because what product-oriented focuses on is really the content, like the actual thing you're making, while the transition one relates more to the process. And of course, if you focus on process, the subject of sustainability comes up, like what is good for our planet. And I'm wondering this because we're actually setting up a project which will, I hope, encompass both. Which is aimed at developing a label for houses related to flooding, which will inform people on the risk they are running and also the measures they could take, how the measures they take lower the risk. But of course, the underlying principle of developing such a tool is to get these people to take action or at least consider their risks. So I'm not sure if in that sense that they are so different, the both approaches. Maybe they just emphasis more on one product or the other, but there of course is always an agenda. If a developer wants to develop a phone or they are aiming at exploring the market and
No, I agree with you. The tough part here is that these are public-private people partnerships, right? So we have not only a lot of actors, we also have a lot of different actors. So they are related, but because we have to take into account with all these different interests, it's wise to know what we are working on. Because if you want to do this narrow scope of innovation, this might be really frustrating for many process managers in the long run. Most of the process managers starting the lab, so the Innova 58 is still starting, were indicating already that it was really frustrating for them that some people will only want to be involved on a small level because they wanted to scale up these issues. That's one of the issues that public agents often occur with. Also, it's very tough to do this because the theme is called the fixed regime, and I think this is also where this is very salient. Because during the interview I had with the process manager of Strong City, I think he said 4 times during the interview, what we're doing here is really exciting, and then he got like the puppy. Why? Because municipal agents and also agents of Rijkswaterstaat went to the people and they were saying, we don't know what to do, we really need you to work here. But this is, not something that Rijkswaterstaat is used to. They are used to this command and control paradigm. And political agents also aren't used to doing this because they have their electoral cycles in which they have to think and produce solutions rather than saying, well, you elected me, but I don't know what to do. So breaking this fixed regime and trying to work together, so translating this living lab from this in-house to this more city scale level, that is already really, really challenging. And if that is your scope, I think it's something that you have to communicate thoroughly with the living lab actors in the beginning, other than when you're doing a poll. So I think, although there are nuances, it's an important nuance.
Is that helpful clarification? Thank you so much. Okay, final question or picture time, it's up to you.
I think we're all hungry.
I do have a question, but I will raise it during lunch.
Okay.
So let's gather in front of the building, take a picture, and then find our way to the business lab. Good job.